Azerbaijan will seek compensation from Armenia for the damage caused to the environment and natural resources during the occupation. Azerbaijani authorities estimate the damage to retaken areas at over $100 billion and is preparing massive compensation lawsuits against Armenia. As Armenia left the previously occupied districts, Azerbaijani President Aliyev emphasized that the Azerbaijani government is conducting an evaluation of both financial and moral losses. Azerbaijan intends to pursue compensation from Armenia for the economic devastation in the previously occupied regions. Initial assessments suggest this economic damage falls within a range of $53 billion to $100 billion. The outcome of this forthcoming legal and political struggle will have significant ramifications for Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the entire South Caucasus region. A frequently overlooked issue in the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict concerns the matter of reparations for economic harm in the previously occupied territories and the rightful compensation for internally displaced persons who lost their property due to the occupation. Nurlan Mustafayev has indicated the real amount of the expected compensation in his article. In 2000, the United Nations Human Development Report estimated the cumulative economic losses incurred by Azerbaijan due to Armenia's occupation of Nagorno-Karabakh and the surrounding 7 districts to be approximately $53 billion. This figure encompassed a broad range of factors, including the economic toll resulting from the occupation of cities, districts, and villages, the financial implications related to internally displaced persons, casualties, and their associated expenses, as well as the destruction of industries, infrastructure, fertile agricultural land, deforestation, and more. In both 2005 and 2010, fact-finding missions conducted by the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe to the previously occupied Azerbaijani territories yielded stark evidence of the devastating consequences wrought by the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. These missions discovered towns and villages that had thrived prior to the conflict but had been subsequently abandoned and lay in ruins. Furthermore, in 2008, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a special resolution focused on the situation in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. This resolution reaffirmed the economic losses incurred and highlighted the illegitimate settlement policies pursued in these territories. To illustrate the regrettable condition in these areas, certain experts have likened the extensive devastation witnessed in the Azerbaijani city of Akhtam to Hiroshima of the Caucasus. An American diplomat referred to it as the largest Home Depot on the planet because all the structures in the occupied territories had been thoroughly stripped by Armenians for building supplies. Akhtam was an Azerbaijani city with a population of around 40,000 inhabitants before it fell into the hands of Armenian forces in 1993. Now, Azerbaijan regained the city. However, they have discovered that only a solitary mosque remains standing in Akhtam, with residential buildings stripped bare. The urgent priorities include demoning the area and initiating reconstruction efforts, as Akhtam is heavily contaminated with landmines, as are all the other buffer zones that Azerbaijan regained control over during the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. It is estimated that it will take between 3 to 5 years for people to return and live in these areas, but a full 15 years may be required to clear every last mine. In 2022, the president of Azerbaijan underscored that Armenia had engaged in the illegal extraction of gold and other precious metals within Zanjalan and other districts during its occupation of Azerbaijani territories. These mining activities were conducted in a reckless manner, transforming these areas into environmental disaster zones, and the illegally extracted gold was illicitly exported abroad. The president emphasized that these transgressions would not go unpunished. Azerbaijan is meticulously assessing the extent of the damage incurred, cataloging all the devastated towns and villages. Preparations are being made to present these facts to international courts. Foreign individuals, including those of Armenian descent who were involved in the illicit exploitation of the Vejneli gold mine in the Zanjalan district, will face significant repercussions. On the other side, Azerbaijan has initiated a significant legal endeavor against Armenia, accusing it of causing extensive harm to its environment and biodiversity throughout the 3-decade-long occupation of the Nagorno-Karabakh region. An international tribunal will review evidence of pervasive environmental degradation during the conflict between the two countries, encompassing issues such as deforestation and pollution. Azerbaijan will request that Armenia be mandated to provide reparations for these damages. Azerbaijan claims that Armenia violated its obligations under the Berne Convention, which require the preservation of all wild flora and fauna, the conservation and restoration of habitats, and the protection of specific species, including migratory ones. According to Azerbaijan's Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources, mining activities during the occupation inflicted significant damage on extensive forests, which represent a biodiversity hotspot and house rare, endangered, and endemic species. Over 7,000 hectares of protected forests were adversely affected. Some of these reserves were established to safeguard rare and fragile ecosystems, such as the Oriental Plain Forest in the Basachay River Valley. In addition to pursuing compensation, Azerbaijan is requesting that the tribunal issue an order requiring Armenia to cease ongoing activities that Azerbaijan alleges are causing further harm to the environment. An examination conducted by Azerbaijan in 2021 of the Akshachay River revealed exceptionally elevated levels of heavy metals in both water and sediment, including cadmium, lead, nickel, iron, molybdenum, and zinc. Although the Armenian government rejects all realities, Armenian environmental and civil society groups had consistently voiced alarm regarding the river's pollution with heavy metals and other pollutants. Additionally, research conducted by Armenian scientists had revealed a deteriorating environmental situation in the region. In recent years, Ali Hasanov, the Azerbaijani chairman of State Committee for Deals of Refugees and IDPs, said that Armenia must pay up to $300 billion. He said, "There are international legal norms, documents, conventions on the requirements for the liberation of the occupied lands and payment of damages. We joined all these conventions. The issues related to this are reflected in the national legislation of Azerbaijan. We have sufficient laws to address the social problems of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as to address these issues, which are based on international conventions. But over time, if necessary, certain changes and additions can be made to these laws. This is a normal practice. At this stage, nobody knows how Armenia will pay this amount. Some analysts argue that Armenia will offer territorial concessions to Azerbaijan instead of paying that amount of money.